Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center, and welcome to your Tuesday night spinal workshop. Tonight, we're going to be talking about headaches are not normal. Now, I know a lot of people, when they first come walking through our door, and like most chiropractic offices, as we go through our history of questions of different things and different ailments, everybody always tells us, oh yeah, I have my headaches 2, 3, 4 times a week. I mean, it really sounds like you're listening to KYW 2, 3, 4 times a day, you know. But here's the thing. We have been so droned into hearing people having their headaches multiple times during the course of a week that people start to believe that they're normal. It's normal to walk around having a headache from sunrise to sunset, or having 2, 3, 4 of them every single week after a long day of work, or maybe you had your cycle, and with the cycle comes the routine migraine headache, quote unquote migraine headache, that happens because of the hormonal shift that's occurring inside your system. Well, I'm here to tell you, no, headaches aren't normal. Our body wasn't created, it wasn't designed for us to be walking around with a headache every single day. We're not supposed to have headaches where, they're debilitating beyond the point of being able to function. In fact, I could still remember one of our patients that came walking in, and I could remember her vividly explaining to me that she would get a headache. And when she would get a headache, well, basically she was down and out for 2 or 3 days. And when I say down and out, I mean in bed, not functioning, not moving, lights off, that was it. And she assumed it was normal to be that way because she had been suffering with it for so long. Well, listen, tonight, yeah, we're going to talk about the fact that headaches are not normal. Are they common? Yeah, they're common because people don't know what you know. In fact, people don't know about how the spine and how the body actually operates. And we're going to spend a little time tonight actually reviewing and talking about some of those reasons why you're going to experience headaches. In fact, some of them are going to be chiropractically based. Others are going to be nutritionally based. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things, but here's the key. Most people aren't aware. They're not aware of even the basic things. So in the end, what ends up happening is because they're not aware, they do what they're told to do all the time. What marketing has told them to do, which is what? Take an aspirin. If you got a pain, I got a pill for you. And this is that old Marcus Welby MD attitude, which is, hey, listen, you know what? We can control everything through a pharmaceutical. Yes, I know when you do blood tests and you have your blood drawn, there's always that category of aspirin, ibuprofen, Tylenol, Midol. It always shows up on everybody's blood work, right? No, because it was never intended to be inside that body of yours. And yet, how many times do people walk around? I mean, you see them in the grocery store, and they've picked up this giant bottle of Excedrin. They walk around like it's this prize that they've got. And yet, it's a shackle. It actually causes them to be looped into a process that eventually costs them. See, the sad thing is as I was relating the story of the young lady who had the migraines and was wiped out for 2 or 3 days, one of the reasons why she started coming into our office was because of the devastating effects that the medication was having on her. Oh yeah. Oh, she eventually got rid of the headaches when she took the medication. But the medications brought on with so many side effects that she realized that the price that she was paying for being able to break that cycle came with such a huge cost that she wasn't willing to pay it anymore, so she started to look at options and alternatives. And here's the thing. we all know somebody that is exactly that person that needs to hear what we're going to share next. So I'm going to tell you, just like I always do, and I probably sound like a broken record, but I want you to like this video. It's how you represent that you are actually watching tonight by liking this video. You're going to leave me a comment, and by the end of this, by just simply saying, hey, listen, this was my big takeaway. This is that thing that I wasn't aware. And maybe in that comment section, as you're doing that, you're also tagging somebody so that they know and that they get this directly sent to them so that they could hear the information for themselves. Lastly, just simply share it. Because listen, one less person taking that medication, and I don't care whether it's aspirin or Advil or Tylenol or any of the prescribed headache medications, they all come with damaging side effects. We have dialysis nurses here in our office that we treat on a regular basis, and they all recognize and they all say the same thing: how those medications literally destroy other tissues in the body. See, the sad thing is what we consider the benefit we gain today comes with a huge cost down the road. And I don't want to stand by the sidelines and know that we could have done something like sharing this information to have saved somebody from being one of those statistics. And I don't want you to ever feel that way also. Because listen, it's estimated that 9 out of 10 Americans, they experience headaches. There are some rare people who just don't. And I'm telling you, normally I never do. In fact, in my story, and I'll share with you that fact that I would get a debilitating headache that I knew it wasn't coming from my neck. I knew exactly where it was coming from. And it was coming from the fact that I had eye strain. But you know what? Those headaches were there for a reason. They were to kick me in the butt and get my butt back to make sure that I had my prescription, checked, and actually cause my prescription to be changed. And in turn, guess what? The headaches are gone. But the headache is there for a purpose. It's there for a reason. We don't get signals for our body for just no particular reason. And listed up here are just some of the different things. I mean, everything from, the exercise, the eating, the drinking and smoking that people do. Those are some of those things. We have things like indirect symptoms of eye strain. That's something that I had particularly suffered from and found out about. The improper diet, the food intolerances. We just assume that we should be able to consume everything. Well, that's not necessarily the case for some of us. Stress, poor sleep, hormonal imbalances for some of you. And guys, don't think that you're off the hook. You're not. We can too have hormonal balances which will cause these headaches. In rare cases, we have things like brain tumors and diabetes. Poor posture is one of those leading causes of headaches, not just in adults, but also in children. Those spinal disturbances causing a circular reaction that creates the headache. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But let's dig in. Unlike last week where we covered a lot of statistics that came from the CDC in regards to, the true cost of healthcare. And if you didn't catch that, go back to last week's conversation. It was a really good conversation. There's a lot of statistics in there. Today we're going to dig right into some of these remedies. Because I'll tell you what, there are a lot of things at our disposal that we can use that don't have to have side effects attached to them. And one of those happens to be magnesium. Magnesium is there because of what it does for the muscles in order to allow them to relax. Now, you might say, is it really that important? Yes. Stress is one of those things that I'm pretty sure every one of us suffers from on some level, whether it's, mental, physical, emotional. Forgive me, but if you have children, you've probably hit all of those check boxes at this point. Well, guess what? Magnesium is one of those things that oftentimes, because of the lack of great food quality that we have today, is oftentimes lacking inside of our system. And yes, for some of us, I mean, listen, when we have subluxations, when we have those bones that are out of place in the middle part of our spine, which largely controls things like, our stomach, our small and our large intestines, guess what? We can't break food down properly, which means then we can't get the nutrients out of it. We can't absorb it the way it's supposed to and funnel it off to the tissues. Well, any one number of those reasons are things that could possibly be causing us not to have as much magnesium in our system as we should. Now, the wonderful thing is magnesium is simple. It's easy. In fact, for most, it's somewhere between, taking 200 to 600 milligrams of magnesium is enough to actually cause the muscles to relax, cause them to function properly, and in turn, for some of those headache-type symptoms to drift away. Now, I do have to say that oftentimes, if you just pick and you cherry pick just one of these different things that we talk about tonight, well, that's good. But oftentimes, there's a layering effect that ends up occurring. There's normally combinations of these things that are at play that are causing your body not to work the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to encourage you to listen until the end, because we're going to talk about a bunch of different things here that you want to make sure that you think about first in regards to how are you performing, and then you recognize what are those action steps that I need to take to bring myself up to speed. Because listen, many of us, we're not even familiar with what is the B vitamins actually do for our body. Most of them happen to be water soluble, and this is a big thing. In fact, B6 is one of those things that it's a water soluble vitamin that your nerves need. Let me say that again. It's a water soluble vitamin that your nerves need. Now, if you're not familiar with vitamins and whether, there's some that are water soluble, there's some that are fat soluble. Water soluble, very simply, means that it'll dissolve in water. You'll put it in here, it'll dissolve, it'll break down real easily, and in turn, it'll very quickly be able to be used by your body. Fat soluble vitamins, they require a little bit more breakdown, a little bit more intensive work in order to actually get them into your system. Now, here's the consequence, though, of it being broken down so quickly. It also means that it exits your body very quickly. So, in turn, we need to make sure that we're constantly consuming B vitamins. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, how in the world am I getting rid of this vitamin so quickly? Well, let's think. Alcohol, caffeine, tobacco. There's one other big thing. It's called stress. And again, if you don't have children, maybe you don't have stress in your life, but I know most of us have children. Most of us are wired to what's happening in our nation and around the world. There's probably just a little bit of stress that we all have experienced. So therefore, it's one of those things that, we might need to consider if it's not in your multivitamin, if in fact you're not taking a multivitamin, you might want to consider adding this into your regimen of things that you can be doing to help yourself reduce the chance of having a headache. Now, this conversation is like beating a dead horse. We talk about it in our office all the time. And the remarkable thing is, listen, I would say at least 90% of our new patients in the office fail at drinking enough water. And it's not a criticism, it's just a reality. Because this is like any other exercise. You have to really work hard at making sure that you're consuming enough water to feed your body with what it needs. And listen, I don't care how you get it in. I mean, you see water up here, and with mint leaves in it, with cucumbers in it. You could put all different types of fruit in it. I don't care. Water is very simply that product that you could take a shower in. If you could take a shower in it, great. It's that clear H2O. You want to make sure that your goal is half of your body weight in water. In fact, at that point, you sort of have to look into the toilet in order to figure out, is it that straw yellow color? Do I need to consume a little bit more or maybe a little bit less? But here's the thing. If you've not tested yourself, if you've not examined that, you don't know. That simple formula of half of your body weight, it's simple and easy. That's a great place to start. But water is one of those things that, listen, if you're not drinking enough water, over 75% of your body is made up of water molecules. Your brain, the muscles around your spine, they're all made up of water. So how in the world could any of these tissues perform well if you're not drinking enough? And yes, milk, orange juice, vodka, wine, none of those count. Because your body has to work really hard in order to actually get all the impurities out of that to distill it just down to that H2O molecule. So let's keep it simple, all right? One of the other natural remedies, which, some people like, some people don't like. Hey, listen, if you're not a bath person, push pause. Well, no, I take that back. Listen to this. Because, like anything, sometimes we have to embrace different in order to help ourselves. And you're saying, well, listen, if I have a headache, am I just sticking my head in the bathtub? Is that what I'm doing? Because that's not going to end real well. No. The benefit of taking Epsom salt baths, and listen, you can amplify these things by putting in organic vinegars into it. You can amplify it by using things like lavender, the essential oils. You can put those in there. The benefit is the fact that it draws toxins out of your body. Now, sometimes people say, well, how in the world did that get there? Sometimes it's the passive things. You and I don't even think about it. We have coffee. Well, guess what? There's toxins in coffee. We have teas. We drink different types of drinks. They produce toxins inside of our bodies. Lord knows that the foods that we eat are not necessarily clean. Some of them that aren't raised organically, they have different things sprayed on them. They have different materials, whether it's antibiotics, whether it's growth hormones, put into those meat products. Strychnine and arsenic are used in chicken all the time in order to help control the product and bring it to a certain weight for delivery to the marketplace. Those things don't get cooked down. So when we eat them, they become part of us. Besides the stuff that we naturally put onto our body. Don't forget, that skin of yours, it absorbs everything, or at least 70% of what you put onto it. So all those chemicals, whether it's makeup, whether it's deodorants, what you put onto your body becomes part of you. And yes, just like a cup, if you continue to fill it over time, sooner or later, you're going to get to the rim, you're going to actually get to that point where it's overflowing. And you're going to see the mess that cascades over top of you. Well, guess what? This is that simple and easy thing that you can do to help draw some of that away. Just scrape a layer off, and by making a routine out of it, it becomes that thing that just simply helps to detoxify your system on a regular basis. Now listen, unfortunately we can't get beyond this point because we talked about posture from hello, and yes, posture happens to be one of those huge things that causes us to create headaches. Because when those bones in your neck come out of place, in fact, there is this condition is called the forward head carry. When we start taking our neck, instead of it being over our shoulders where it's supposed to be, we start jutting this forward. Well, listen, you look around. If you do a posture check at home, just watch your kids. Watch them on their phones. Observe people when they're watching TV or looking at magazines. What do? They're dropping their head down like this. See, sadly, our inborn intelligence knows one thing. It doesn't want our head dropping right to the ground. So what does it do? It tightens up all those muscles in the back of our neck in order to keep us, this 14-pound bowling ball that we call a head, from dropping onto our chest and into our lap. It doesn't ask you to do it. It's your inborn intelligence that does that allows for it to be brought up and held into that better place. Now the problem is that, well, there's a nerve that goes right through those muscles along the back of your neck that sort of spans out like this in the back of your head. It's called the greater occipital nerve. The problem is that as it passes through that muscle and the muscle's too tight, it just squeezes it. It just squeezes around it. And that's when you end up getting that, that tension type headache. And that's why, when you put ice on the back of your head when you have one of those tension type headaches, that it just simply dials it back and drains it down. But here's the problem. If in fact you're not testing and checking that posture of yours, if in fact you're not making sure that, that curve in your neck is there the way it's supposed to be, the problem is that this process continues to change over time. See, poor posture is not normal, but it is common. And that poor posture is one of those biggest reasons that it drives the body not to work properly. And in the end, as a chiropractor, I'm just simply going to tell you, one of the biggest things that I know that we can do to help ourselves is that very first thing, which is to get checked. See, I can't stand here and tell you if, in fact, your headaches are coming from a magnesium problem, or a toxic overload, or, in fact, if you're dehydrated, or if your posture is awful and it's coming from a problem in your neck. But what I do know is that if we're not making that very first step and helping people to understand the fact that they need to get checked, then we're not doing our part. In fact, I'm telling you now, if you're watching this video and you're seeing this, and you should be recognizing the fact that you have a responsibility to help in your community, with your families and your friends, to make sure that people don't get to that place where their body is so broken that they have to dig themselves out of a huge hole. So sadly, I hear that every single day. I heard that from one of our patients tonight here in the office. She had referred her husband into the office, and admittedly, she goes, he should have been here sooner. And yet, sadly, unless we're getting that message out into our community, we are part of the problem and we're not part of the solution. I'm not going to ever stop asking you to do your part to help somebody else out. My job is to make sure that our community is provided and protected for, and in the end, I do that not by myself, but with my team. And you are part of our chiropractic family and our chiropractic team. I'm going to remind you, we're going to be doing three things. I want you to make sure that you're liking this video. In the comment section, I want to hear what your takeaway was. What the thing was that you wanted to take away. Maybe it was an aha moment. Maybe it was a reminder of something that you knew that you stopped doing. Maybe it was somebody that, hey, listen, you're thinking about. Is suffering from headaches and needs to hear this information. Tag them in the comment section. But finally, share this information. In doing so, we're doing our part to make sure that our community is cared for. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center.